Specialized. It starts with a guy who sold his VW van to buy bike parts in Italy. Mike Sinyard, 1974. He flew to Europe, bought Italian components nobody in the US could get, and sold them out of his own place back in California. That was the whole company, an importer. Then, in 1981, they built the Stump Jumper, the first mass-produced mountain bike in the world. Before that, a mountain bike was something you welded together in a garage. Specialized turned it into something you could walk into a shop and buy. The detail that tells you everything about them, their company motto, printed inside the building, is 2 words: innovate or die. Not a slogan for a poster, a threat to themselves. Trek. While Specialized was importing, a few guys in Wisconsin were bending steel by hand in a barn. Waterloo, Wisconsin, 1976. Trek started in a red barn behind a carpet warehouse, building steel frames one at a time, farm country, no cycling heritage for 1,000 miles, and they grew into the biggest bike brand in America. In 1992, they cracked something called OCLV carbon, a way of molding carbon fiber so precise it changed what a frame could weigh. Here's the part that stings. For years, the fastest bikes in the Tour de France came out of a barn in Wisconsin, farmland. That's where the carbon was born. Giant. Every brand so far designed their bikes. This one built everybody else's. Taiwan, 1972. A man named King Liu founded Giant, and for years they didn't sell a single bike under their own name. They were the factory, the OEM, quietly manufacturing frames for the big Western brands. Then one of their biggest clients, Schwinn, walked away. So in 1981, Giant said fine and launched their own label. The unexpected part nobody advertises. Giant is the largest bicycle manufacturer on Earth, and a lot of rival brands you think of as competitors, their frames have rolled out of Giant's factories. The giant behind the curtain, Cannondale, named after a train station. I'm not joking. Cannondale, Connecticut, 1971. There's a Metro North stop with that name, and that's where the brand came from. And they didn't start with bikes. Their first product was a bag, a trailer for hauling gear. Then in the 80s, they went all in on a material everyone else thought was too harsh to ride: aluminum. Big, fat, oversized aluminum tubes, welded in the USA. The signature move. The thing that makes people do a double take in a parking lot. The lefty fork. A suspension fork with only one leg, half a fork. It looks broken. It works better than most forks with 2. Santa Cruz. This one was started by a professional skateboarder who wanted bikes to be fun. Santa Cruz, California, early 90s. Rob Roscop came out of skateboarding, and the brand carried that attitude straight into mountain biking. They bet the entire company on a specific suspension design, the VPP, the way the rear wheel moves over a hit, and they backed their frames with something almost nobody does: the detail that earns loyalty for life, a lifetime warranty on the frame, and free bearings. Forever? The little parts that wear out and cost you every year, they just mail you new ones. For as long as you own the bike. Canyon, the brand you can't buy in a single bike shop on the planet. Germany, Koblenz. It started as Radsport Arnold in the 80s. Roman Arnold literally selling parts from a trailer at races. In 2002, it became Canyon and made one radical decision: no dealers. None. You buy directly from them, online, and a fully built bike shows up at your door in a box. The catch that defines the whole company: you assemble the last bit yourself. A machine that costs as much as a used car, and the final steps are you, on your kitchen floor, with the Allen key they included. Cutting out the middleman is why it's cheaper, and why it terrifies traditional shops. Scott. Before Scott made bikes, it made ski poles, and it quietly rigged one of the closest races in history. 1958, Sun Valley, Idaho. Ed Scott invented the tapered aluminum ski pole, skiing, not cycling. But hold on to that engineering, because in 1989 it collided with the Tour de France. The final stage, a time trial, Greg LeMond against Laurent Fignon. LeMond bolts on a set of Scott Aero handlebars, a weird triathlon thing nobody used in road racing, tucks into that shape and rides. He won the entire Tour de France by 8 seconds. 8. After 3 weeks and over 2,000 miles, the closest margin in the history of the race. And the piece that made the difference came from a ski pole company, YT Industries. The name is a promise, and it's aimed straight at your wallet. Germany, 2008. Marcus Flossmann founded YT. It stands for Young Talent, on a simple, almost aggressive idea: pro-level gravity bikes at a price a normal person could actually afford. Direct to consumer, same as Canyon, so no dealer markup. Their whole motto is just good times. The unexpected part is what it did to the sport. YT put World Cup caliber downhill bikes under teenagers who could never have dreamed of that budget. The kid at your local trail on a bike as capable as the pros, there's a good chance it's a YT. They didn't lower the quality, they lowered the gate. Commencal, a whole bicycle brand that ran away to a tiny country in the mountains, Andorra, a micronation tucked in the Pyrenees between France and Spain, smaller than most cities. Max Commencal founded the brand there in 2000, sells direct, and points it almost entirely at going downhill fast. But here's where they zig while everyone else zags. The whole industry chases carbon fiber, lighter, pricier, the premium material. Commencal looked at it and said no. They build their frames out of aluminum, on purpose. Their argument? It's tougher, it's more repairable, and it's easier on the planet. In a carbon-obsessed sport, they turned metal into a statement. Ibis Cycles. Now we leave the mass market. This is where bikes stop being products and start being instruments. Tempe, Arizona, 2007. Chris founded Pivot with one goal: not cheap, not for everyone, just the best riding bike he could engineer. Cost be damned. They license a suspension system called the DW Link, obsessed over how the bike behaves when you pedal and when you hit something at the same time. The detail that separates them: there's no budget model to reel you in. Every bike is built to the same uncompromising spec. Forbidden Bike Co., the new kid that showed up and made everyone else's suspension look outdated. Vancouver Island, Canada, around 2019. Young brand from a rainforest full of steep, brutal trails, and they built their bikes around an idea most companies had abandoned: the high pivot with an extra little pulley, an idler, that the chain wraps around. Here's what that weird pulley actually does and why it feels like cheating. On a normal bike, when the rear wheel hits a rock, it gets shoved up and slightly forward, back into you. On a Forbidden, the wheel moves up and backward. It retreats away from the impact. The bike almost swallows the hit instead of hitting you back. First ride, people describe the same thing. It feels like the trail got smoother. Ibis Cycles. And we close with one of the originals, a company that has died and come back from the dead. 1981. Same year, Specialized launched the Stump Jumper. A guy named Scott Nicole started building frames by hand and called it Ibis, one of the true first-generation mountain bike brands. And they were never fully serious about being serious. Their most famous part was a cable stop cast in the shape of a tiny human hand. They named it, and I mean this literally, the hand job. Then around the year 2000, Ibis went bankrupt, gone, and a few years later, it came back. Same name, same weird humor, now building some of the most respected carbon frames in the sport. If you'd like to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe and feel free to drop suggestions for the next video in the comments.